Well, it's February, and you all know what that means. It's the time of year specifically designed to make single people feel terrible about being alive. Yeah, sometimes love just straight up sucks. But today I wanted to look at a particular negative romantic saying that's popped up in the last few years or so. The friend zone. What is it? Well, it happens to most of us at one point during our teenage or adult lives. Its official definition on Wikipedia being, friend zone refers to a platonic relationship wherein one person wishes to enter into a romantic or sexual relationship, while the other does not. This can be because of the romantic interest being of a different sexual orientation, already being involved with someone else, or just common disinterest. But one thing is clear. It's having feelings for someone that really has no interest in being anything but friends, making it the case of being so close, yet so far. It's unrequited love at its shittiest, really. But it doesn't just happen in the real world. There's a surprising number of characters in Game of Thrones that are every bit as stuck in the same predicament. So, to celebrate Valentine's Day, here's a quick top 5 list of the most friend-zone characters in the series. Enjoy. Number 5. Lysa Arryn. Now, there's a lot of talk out there that the friend zone only happens to men. But there's a couple of ladies on this list that I think would beg to differ. This first one, however, comes in pretty low for 2 reasons. One, because it's pretty clear that the object of Lysa's affections wasn't so much a friend to her as he was emotionally jerking her around. And 2, they did have a sexual relationship, just not a romantic one, or at least not on his part. So this is more the case of 2 people having a past sexual arrangement, and one person getting played along like it's something more than that. But they started out friends when they were younger, and the tale of Lysa's love life I think is easily the most tragic one in the series, and that she deserves a spot on this list. So, if you think being single is depressing, just remember that this was Lysa's Valentine's Day last year. Number 4. Jon Connington. Here's one for the book readers. Before the start of the series, Jon Connington was the best friend of Prince Rhaegar Targaryen, son of the Mad King Aerys, and elder brother to Viserys and Daenerys. Now, it turns out that Jon had himself a big old crush on the silver-haired prince. And from what we know about Rhaegar, that's really not surprising. He's described by almost everyone who knew him to be just about perfect. But even if Rhaegar hadn't been utterly, tenderized by Robert's warhammer at the Trident, it doesn't seem like the ostensibly heterosexual prince was interested in returning any of the feelings that Jon had for him. Which is kinda sad, considering that he never stopped holding a pretty big torch for the guy. Number 3. Brienne of Tarth. When Lord Renly Baratheon went on his coming-of-age tour around the Stormlands to visit the homes of his bannermen, one of the places he stopped was Evenfall Hall on the Isle of Tarth, the home of Lord Selwyn and his daughter Brienne. Renly acted with a kind, lordly courtesy that won over the heart of the young girl instantly, and as Brienne was never treated very well by the men in her life, most of them openly making fun of the way she acted or looked, it's easy to see how she'd fall in love with the first guy who treated her with any sort of common human decency. But it turns out that Brienne read way too much into Renly's friendliness, because, yep, just like Jon Connington, here's another person swallowed into the friend zone by a conflicting sexual orientation. The worst part is, even though Brienne never knew about Renly being gay, she resigned herself to the friend zone. Because of her low self-esteem due to past experiences with other men, she told herself that she'd never be good enough for Renly. So, she joined his personal guard, feeling that being at Renly's side protecting him was just the best she'd ever do. Numero 2. Jorah Mormont. Ah, Sir Jorah Mormont, the face that launched 1,000 memes. You probably expected him to be number 1, didn't you? Right? I mean, he's practically the poster boy for the friend zone. Well, I think there's someone who deserves that spot a little more, but we'll get to that in a minute. Originally, Jorah had cut a deal with the crown to spy on the 2 Targaryens in exchange for a royal pardon for his past crimes. But, as we all know, he fell in love with Daenerys and ends up becoming her trusted advisor, and boy does this guy get shut down at every possible corner. It's clear that Jorah would do anything for her, and Daenerys in turn really could not be less interested, thinking of him more as a father figure and counselor, which makes sense, her being 13 and him being 43. Seriously, Jorah, if this had happened nowadays, your ass would be all kinds of arrested by now. But anyways, what makes it worse is that this isn't even the first time Jorah has had to deal with heartbreak. His first wife, a woman from House Umber, died after a miscarriage, and his second wife from House Hightower ditched him after he couldn't afford the rich lifestyle she wanted. So, yeah, love hasn't been good to Jorah. It's easy to see why he's taken up the popular fan title of Lord Friendzone, since his rejection is the one that we see the most of. Sorry, Jorah, sometimes you can be the most loyal, kind, and chivalrous person in the world to her, and she'd still rather go with the guy who looks like this. But at least you can sleep easy knowing that this is what she'll be constantly pulling out of her shower drain for the rest of her life. Ugh. And finally, the number 1 spot. Now, we all get rejected at some point. It might be an application to college or a job interview, but rejection is a part of life. Usually, you take the disappointment on the chin and move on with your dignity intact. Or you can bury those feelings deep, deep down and come up with a master plan to drive an entire realm into chaos. Littlefinger grew up with the Tullys after he was sent to Riverrun by his father to act as ward for Lord Hoster Tully, where he fell in love with his oldest daughter. Catelyn later became engaged to Brandon Stark, and little shrimpy Peter had the bright idea to challenge the Northern man to a duel for Catelyn's hand in marriage. Needless to say, Peter was almost instantly beaten, and if getting your ass kicked in front of the girl that you like isn't bad enough, Catelyn, in order to keep Brandon from killing him, said that Peter was in no way a threat to their marriage because she had always thought of him as a little brother. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the incident where Littlefinger as we know him today was born. So I guess the moral of the story is that people stuck in the friend zone should come up with a really complicated plan to get a ton of people killed, and in the end you'll be rewarded with a hot young redhead and more wealth than you could ever dream of. Look, the point is Littlefinger got friend-zoned so badly that it not only shaped who he is as a character, but there's a strong case to be made that it shaped a lot of the events in the series as well. And now, with the power invested in me by... Look, I don't know, pick one of these things. I hereby strip Jorah of his titles and crown Lord Peter Baelish the new Lord of the Friend Zone. So, if you happen to be stuck in the friend zone this Valentine's Day, or find yourself without someone to give a heart-shaped box of those plastic-tasting chocolates to, take solace in the fact that you aren't alone, and the right one is out there for you, I promise. Also, a big thank you and shout out to Mike DeSmet for your donation. I'm Danzie, and I'll see you next time.